Hey, what do you say to everybody? Gio City, right back at you. Give me a few minutes here, all right? It's been a long weekend, so I need your complete and undivided attention. Give me about, 7 to 10 minutes. I'm sure you got that for me, all right? First things first, all right? Hold on, I'm going to put my glasses on because I got to read a few things, okay? I may not be as handsome this way, but I got to wear them. Anyway, guys, there's absolutely no sugarcoating the loss. We got beat. Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a good NFL football team, okay? They beat us in the trenches. What does that mean? How do you define that? Well, besides being to the point saying we got kicked in the face, at least in the trenches, that's what happened. But sometimes, even though the talent stand, the potential for a huge game is there, and yes, on paper and in reality, we're a better team than Tampa Bay. They beat us up in the trenches, which changes the whole design of the game, okay? Offensive line, defensive line, okay? So I'm going to start by talking about our offensive line. By the way, I love the guys. Remember last year, hold on, I got to read some more. Last year, we were, I think, the only team in the NFL that started our front five, the entire offensive line, the entire season. Roger Stafford, good guy. We lost. A real steady performer. He used to outmuscle people. We lost him. It's part of the transition, okay? It happens. Andrew Whitworth, thank God we still have him. He is a little older. He's a class guy. He's a veteran. I still think he'll bounce back at left tackle. He's not playing his best football now. But is he capable? Absolutely. John Sullivan, last year's mainstay at center, another guy we lost. Listen, the offensive line, no doubt, will need to develop week over week over week. But that's where it stems right now. Okay, we're going to get into defensive conversation as well. The Rams as a whole, we're 3-1. Repeat that to yourself 3, 4, 5, 6 times. We're 3-1. Okay? Easy stuff. You win 3 out of every 4 games. You go from 3-1, 6-2, 9-3, right? I got that right? 12-4. You know what? We're better than 12-4. But even if we finish 12-4 in the NFC this year, it's probably going to be good enough for a first-round bye, if not the number 1 seed. Okay? So 12-4, 13-3, 14-2. It's the NFL. We lost. We got beaten to the punch in the trenches. Our offensive line, I'm not going to yell and scream. I love the guys. But you know what? They weren't as good as Tampa's defensive line yesterday. In terms of our boys on the defensive line against Tampa's offensive line in the trenches, they made Jameis Winston look like Johnny Unitas. Why didn't we get in his face? Now look, I praise and speak so highly of our linebackers and our defensive front. We know what we think about Aaron Donald. Probably the best player, without exception, in the entire NFL. But some days, it's the nature of the NFL. Any given Sunday. Some days, they're human. They can be outplayed. That's what happened yesterday. Right? Now, offensively, there was a lot of wonderful takeaways yesterday. Think of the game that Woods had, and my man Cooper Kupp had. And yes, Jared Goff. All right? I wrote some stats down. 45 for 68, 45 completions, 66%. That's fabulous, considering he was hit 23 times, hurried an unthinkable 35 times. How is any quarterback going to be totally efficient, beyond his game, with accuracy, with just about everything, decision making, if he's got a second and a half, 2 seconds or less to execute his play? Now look, He missed a few open receivers yesterday. 2 of them could have scored touchdowns. But did you factor in everything else that he did well? You know how hard it is to complete 15 passes, let alone 45 passes in one game? 45! What do you want, blood? Now look, I'm not going to be silly, or ignorant and say that he had a wonderful game, because it was a very frustrating game. He'd be the first to admit it. But when a quarterback doesn't get support of a well-balanced offensive line play or running game, I don't even want to talk about the fact that the percentage of passes against run plays. Again, that's game situation. But when you think about Jared Goff's toughness yesterday, remember, Jared Goff is a 125% proven talent, okay? Going into yesterday's game, it's probably still a fact. Since the beginning of 2017, Jared Goff and Tom Brady have won more games than any other quarterback in football. He's a winner, all right? Do good winning quarterbacks have tough days, frustrating days? Absolutely. It's going to happen. It happens to the best of them, happens more often to the worst of them. That's why they're not as highly regarded. No excuses for yesterday, but even with the potential touchdown passes that he could have made, and by the way, the turnovers are also exaggerated. 2 of his interceptions were tip balls. When there's a tip ball, theoretically, it's not the quarterback's fault. Okay, the ball's tipped. He's got a target, it gets tipped. Football could go 1 or 2 ways, or 3 ways, or 4 ways, or 5 ways. Come on. This should be a supportive fan base. No more one guy, I got to get his name, I don't want to call him out. Somebody on the Ram fans page had the audacity, the ignorance to start saying that maybe they should be thinking about replacing him. You don't see the value that this guy brings to the team. You don't appreciate his toughness. You know how tough he was yesterday? How would you like to be hit 23, 24, 25 times a game? Smacked around. He had to make split-second decisions. Look at all the balls he did connect. 45 completions. Sometimes it takes NFL quarterbacks 4 games to complete 45 balls. He did it with 1. Now look, again, not sugarcoating it. You can't go about NFL games throwing 65, 68 times. It was almost an NFL record. But you can't throw the guy under the bus. He's still 3-1 this year. And even at his worst, or the so-called worst, he still puts up very impressive numbers, and he still has that leadership quality. He doesn't cry. He admits his faults. He's tough. He gets up after being hit. You got to support this guy. He's our quarterback for the next 12, 13 years. He's worth every single penny. If the offensive line was playing at least effectively, consistently, you don't think his numbers, even though they're still rather impressive, can't make an excuse or sugarcoat turnovers? I understand that. But when it comes to a quarterback executing a game plan, making plays, I don't care who you are. Name everyone. Go Google the top 15 quarterbacks of all time, and tell me any one of them, if they were under constant duress, any one of them, hands in the face, no time, 1 second, you drop back one, you think they're going to be playing effectively? You think those are their better games? Bullshit. Okay? Quarterback needs protection. Now sure, sometimes the pocket breaks down, you got to improvise. Goff does a good job rolling right and so, but all quarterbacks get sacked. In terms of him losing the ball, you have an aggressive 275-pound lineman come in your face, hit your arm. You tell me if you're going to hold on to the ball, whether it's blind side or front side. There's times he has the ball, he gets sacked and he has the ball. I'm not going to talk about that anymore. Enough is enough. All right? Another thing I wanted to point out. Think about this scenario. How impressive is the Rams 3-1? And not one more thing about Goff. One more thing. The Rams, the first 4 games, Carolina Panthers, New Orleans Saints, who are they playing game 3? The Cleveland Browns, and now Tampa Bay. Coincidentally, with a developing offensive line that we have, missing those 2 guys I had mentioned, all 4 of those teams, between their front 4 and their linebacking play, they have good, aggressive defenses. Do you realize what happened yesterday? All those blitzes that had to be absorbed? All right? We were outplayed in the trenches. It happens. It's the NFL. Doesn't make us a bad team. It's not that we suck. Remember, 3-1, 6-2, 9-3, 12-4. What's wrong with that? You know how many teams in the NFL are going to go 16-0 or 15-1 this year? 0. Patriots look wonderful, right? They've done it. What happened when they were 16-0? They lost in the playoffs to an inferior Giant team. Execution. But it all starts and finishes in the trenches. Now, I'm not complaining. I love them. I love our entire defensive starting team. The offensive line, unfortunately, we are missing 2 guys from last year through the transition of the NFL, free agency. These guys got to step up. I got to put my glasses down on again. Rob Havenstein, he's got to be coached. He's got to step up. He's got to take it to another level. He can't get beat off the ball, play after play after play after play. Taking a breather. Listen, our offensive line isn't as good as it was last year, but the surrounding talent, the skilled players, we all know who they are, okay? Goff should not be the fall guy for a Ram loss or games that aren't perfectly executed. Do quarterbacks make mistakes? Absolutely. Overthrowing somebody, underthrowing, maybe fumbling a ball when you shouldn't have. But yesterday's game is not a good indication of it, right? You have to take into account the amount of times a quarterback is being hit and how often he's not in a position to execute the play that's being called. It's not the quarterback. You could bring the best quarterbacks in the world back from the dead. The Montanas, the Steve Youngs, the Terry Bradshaws, if you want to put him in, the Peyton Mannings, right? Even Drew Brees and Brady of today, the veterans. What happens to them when they're under constant duress? Now, sure, they may get rid of the ball and throw it out of bounds quicker from their experience, right? Goff doesn't have 16, 17, 18 years in the league. It's his 3rd full season, right? But you go where the talent lies. You respect the likeness and the possibility of performance. We know the personnel the Rams have. We knew them last year. We knew them the year before. A little more transition, different guys on both sides of the line, a lot of the same skilled players. And then now some people also talking about McVay, all right? Now look, I'm hoping most of you guys agree. Sean McVay, through and through, smarts, inspirational, great football IQ, intensity, wonderful game planner, great coach, 2nd best coach in the NFL to Bill Belichick, because I'd be ignorant or silly by saying he's better than Bill Belichick. But think about all the coaches of the league. Who'd you rather have other than Bill Belichick being a head coach of the Rams? So now there's going to be some Ram fans or other NFL people taking shots at Sean McVay? Really? Come on. You know what? I'm going to bounce around in this conversation, but I wanted to speak to you guys today to say, hey, What's done can't be undone. We're 3-1. Game's over. 55-40. Oh, by the way, in my prior video, I did say that the Rams would be 35 points by hook or crook. 40 would be likely, right? And 50 was beautiful. I'm sure it ended up being beautiful for Tampa Bay. And even me, I could laugh about it. But they did get to 40, all right? So listen, the potential, key word, the potential based on personnel at quarterback, all their skilled players, their running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, field goal kicker, punter, everybody through and through, even that defensive team with the capability of creating big plays and scoring. Rams are one of the best teams in the NFL. Arguably, well, forget the argument, we are the best team in the NFC. NFC champs. Who's better than us right now? Oh, who scares you? Who's better than the Rams? Okay, jot it down. We're 3-1, all right? Record-wise, someone could be equal to or 4-0. I don't even want to think. I don't think there's still an NFC team that's unbeaten. I think they're all beat now, right? Listen, as long as we're healthy and we execute, keeping it real. Like I said, no sugarcoating yesterday. We got beaten to the pulp in the trenches on both sides of the ball. It happens. Tampa Bay is a team that should be 3-1. They're 2-2. And by the way, another thing I had to mention since I started thinking about other teams. The Rams knocked off the Panthers opening day in Carolina. Not a bad team. Look at the last 2 games, what they've done. They just won at Houston. That increases the value of Ram win number 1. Ram win number 2, everybody was talking about how the Saints were going to come into LA and we basically walloped them, 27-9. Quality win number 2. Number 3, we won in Cleveland. When all the hype was on Cleveland, we beat them up. That game, we physically imposed our will on the defensive front. We didn't play a perfect game, but we beat them. You know something? The Browns came back after we beat them in their home field. They came back and they won at Baltimore. How come no one's talking about that? Baltimore's defense. Oh, Action Jackson, their quarterback. What happened to Baltimore yesterday? Why'd they give up 40 points at home to the Browns? It's the NFL. Any given Sunday. Now, those 2 teams could, in theory, be close if both executed to their potential. But the Buccaneers, although they're a good team, I'm not throwing them under the bus. They'll win 8 or 9 games this year. They got some nice players on both sides of the ball. And they outplayed the Rams yesterday. But it doesn't mean if they met in 2 weeks that the same result would occur. Nothing needs to be fixed on the Rams other than the consistency and the execution of the offensive line. And that is it. If I hear anybody talk about Goff or McVay again, just look out. I'll say that with a smile. But really, nothing else. Got 3 wins out of it. What happened yesterday? We got outplayed in the trenches by an NFL team with good plays. If you thought it was otherwise, go ahead. Type away. Do that for me, okay? Type away. Please let me know. We'll get ready for the Sea Bags. Let's go in there Thursday night and lay the hammer down on them. Beat them to a pulp. See that stupid look on Pete Carroll's face. Even when we weren't as good, we increased our intensity and we beat Seattle. All right? We get back in 4 days with the ability to show some value and erase the calamity that was the Tampa game. Are you with me? I'll be back to you right before the game. Fun night we're going to have. We get a chance to redeem ourselves soonest. I'll be watching. You'll be watching. Have a great night tonight. Take care. Brush your hair. I want to hear from you. All right? No more yapping about Golfer McVeigh. It ends tonight. Take it easy.